Good morning. So, welcome to this week's episode of Creating a Buzz About Health with me, Paula Carnell. Um, I'm a little bit sleepy this morning because we have, we got back last night from 4 days at a festival where the Morris dancing group that I belong to, we were dancing and we were running workshops. And it really got me thinking about the chapter I wrote in my book, Spiritual Beekeeping, available from books.by/Paula Carnell. Link will be below in the notes. And in there, I have a whole chapter about AI and bees and comparing what the similarities are and the differences between bees and AI. So if I start off with thinking about bees and how bees are very much connected between the heavens and humanity, they upgrade, they vibrate, their frequency is the quantum field that we can all dip into with our minds, with our spirit. And the bees, in that way, they're reflecting whatever is going on between the heavens and humanity. So it's this sort of joining point. So the bees have this incredible ability to heal land. You know, their frequency, their vibration. They're pollinating the plants, and the vibration of their wings, the buzz in the hive. They're creating these wax cells. So they are a fine example of creation and abundance at its best, and creating from nothing, but with collaborating with the plants and with each other, they can create these incredible wax structures that become their home. And also they are reflecting back to us the state of humanity. So if your bees are sick or dying, it just shows that living in this three-dimensional perspective of reality, where everything is about division and pollution and extraction and out of balance, the bees die. So in the chapter in the book, I then talk about, if we think of bees being a reflection of humanity, so you can have healthy bees in a healthy environment and you can have sick bees in an unhealthy environment. And then we look at AI. And AI is this artificial intelligence that humanity is pouring information into. So it's absorbing the environment just like the bees are, but it doesn't have that connection with the heavens. It doesn't have that connection with divinity, with the spirituality. And so that bit of magic is missing. So although we can see AI creating things and robots and, all this incredible technology, and as it's expanding, because it doesn't have this connection with divinity, which is limitless potential, it is limited to whatever humanity puts into it. And now this is the key thing, and this is where it links to the weekend. At the weekend, we were off grid, we were at a festival, we're living in a field with a few hundred other people. It was a lovely small festival. So we've gone to some pretty big ones, and this one was small, which made it's just a different experience. Really lovely. You've got a whole group of strangers. We were there with a group of people we did know, so that made it extra fun. But from all age ranges, from babies right through to 80-year-olds. And we've got compost sloughs. There's one pipe with water with some taps coming off it. So there was a shower. So we're living very much in nature. What was unusual was there was no rubbish. I mean, we had recycling buckets dotted about and people were really clean. So after an all-nighter, if people were up all night with certain music bands or the silent disco, there was no rubbish. You weren't crunching all over rubbish. It was just clean. People really kept the place clean. So it was a perfect example of people living in harmony. So we have 4 or 5 days. There's no big punch-ups. There's no crimes. People are leaving their tents with their valuables in and it's safe. Children were running freely. You know, they were making new friends, they were connecting with the friends that they'd met previous times they'd come to this festival. And so it was wonderful for parents because they knew their kids had this freedom, even though there's a river running through the place, and potential for fear, potential for danger. And yet it was just fun. It was joy. It was laughter. It was community. It was relaxation. And it was creativity. So the music was a sort of a mixture of jazz and folk and maybe a bit of blues. But primarily it was really talented people, really creative people, lots and lots of different musicians. So some of the bands were sort of 10, 11 piece bands on the stage and jamming, you know, playing a set and then maybe just going with the flow. And you had wind instruments, we had saxophones, clarinets, double bass, there was a harp, piano, drums, trumpets, I mean, everything. Accordions, so many accordions. So it was full of creativity. And then outside of the stages, there were play areas. There was all these traditional games. There was a tent where you could go and play chess or drafts. And then there was these outdoor games where you could sort of try and hoop a hoopla. So there's a big pole with a hook on it and chains with a loop that you could swing along and try and hook it up. And then there was crafting tents. So there was crafting from recycled materials. And then the last day, yesterday afternoon, there was a procession and children were able to join the procession with the creatures and the masks and things that they had created from bits of cardboard and egg cartons and you know, whatever they could find. There was fabric, all kinds of stuff, and the creativity was amazing. And this is what AI cannot do. AI can only spurt back at you what humans put in. So there's this limit, there's this potential of whatever we have already thought of. And this is the difference. When you have a connection to divine, to the spiritual source, our potential is limitless. I mean, totally limitless. Whatever we think of, whatever we dream of, we can create. There is that possibility. And bees show us this. And when we use artificial intelligence for our creativity, we're limited to what has already been. And although there's this technical ability to construct things, to put all these dreams together that people have had or ideas together, and there's this incredible ability to remember everything and have access to everything, which as humans we forget. And that, I must admit, when I use AI, that is the helpful bit for me. It's like, well, what did I talk about this time? Or what is my progress? You know, it's an excellent way that I can access the knowledge that I have already shared in an organized form. But when it comes to thinking about thinking about our thoughts, thinking about our thought processes and the connections. So this whole inspiration about going to a festival and seeing how creativity comes from nothing and how children will make up these games when they've got nothing but nature to play with, and how important that is, how vital it is. And I also had some great conversations with people who have been in a tuition, in a training capacity, where they have been with people who are not so young, people into their 30s, who, with the thought of not being able to be connected with their telephone, with their own artificial intelligence, they experience anxiety because everything has been put into this machine that they can carry around with them. And the thought of being let loose in nature with that freedom to create, that freedom to think for yourself, to make decisions, to have the challenges that we have to go through, is too much to bear. And this is where AI gets very dangerous. This is where we really need to be mindful about how much we are putting in to this field that has a limit. And so what can we do about it? I mean, those of us who remember a time without mobile phones, we remember running through the fields with our friends, we remember that freedom. Can you remember that you didn't have to give 3 words of a location to say where you were going to meet your friends? You didn't have to give an exact time. It would be like, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. And you would just meet up. And you would think about somebody and they would phone you. In the days when you only had a phone in the hallway and you had to sit and wait for it to ring, or you had to ring someone and hope they were at home. And yet we would catch people. We would be able to connect. And this is because the power of humanity is so much greater than many of us realise. We have incredible intuition. Everything in nature is communicating all of the time. Everything is emitting a frequency, and we can choose to tune into those frequencies just like that. And this is how the bees connect with the plants. The plants, they're flowering. Now we may look at them and we think, oh yeah, the bees just randomly fly around and they find a flower and they pollinate it. You know, they'll have the nectar as the reward and they'll just be pollinating. But in actual fact, those plants, nectar is such a scarce resource, particularly when we have hot weather like this, that they may only have nectar for a few short hours a day or even minutes. And the bees have got a limited resource. They can't be flying around all day looking for a flower that has nectar. And so there's this communication. Well, they don't have mobile phones, but what they do have is their electrical field. And the flower, when it is ready, when it's ripe, when it wants to be pollinated, its electrical field changes and that goes out into nature and the bees pick it up. You could think of it like a song. You could think of it as like an impulse. Maybe the bees get a tingling. I don't know. But they do know. They know when that patch of brambles and all the new blossom ready to be pollinated and become blackberries, they know when the nectar is available, and that's when the bees will leave the hive and they'll fly directly to that flower. Now we're the same as humans. When we think about somebody, when we think about a place, we are creating a field, an electrical impulse that will connect other people. And this is why we bump into people that we weren't expecting to see, but maybe we'd had a thought of, we'd had a memory, or maybe our electrical field that is saying, oh, I'm going to go here today. Other people will pick it up and think, oh, I'm going to go there. But we're out of practice. And this is what we need to be really, really aware of, because the more we use that, the stronger it gets. And the power that we have is phenomenal. The power that we have to connect not only within nature, but with each other, because we are nature. So we can connect with each other just through our electrical fields. And this is what was amazing at the festival, is you see it happening. We weren't all on our mobile phones. We weren't texting each other saying, oh, you're going to see this band or you're going to be here. We just would go. We would go with the flow and the right people would meet up with us. We would find each other. Admittedly, it wasn't huge, but we were in a space with at least 500 other people. And yet we managed to find each other. People were finding their children. The children were finding their parents. There was this incredible network that when we are fine-tuned, when we are really relaxed, when we're at one with our whole being and the power of our whole being, we are able to communicate and connect with each other. And if we were to just depend on our phones, when you're in the middle of nowhere, you don't have a great signal. Now, if you're like me and you have an older phone, you're getting an increasingly worse signal wherever you go as the systems are upgraded. Now, the problem is, and this is affecting the bees, that with all of our data and all of our technology, that pulse that emanates from our devices or from the towers that we have up, it isn't a continual flow that is going out. It's actually a pulse. And that pulse acts like scissors to the natural wave. So if you have a flower that's emitting a frequency going, come and see me because I'm ready for pollination and I have a cup of nectar to record you with, and it's singing this song that goes out, must be able to travel miles. And the bees pick up on it and they're following it and following it. But if they have to go through the muddy EMF radiation that we've created, the electricity pylons, the wires, then the data pulses, the signals from our phones, they're acting like scissors and they cut this song, they cut this connection. And this is why the bees get lost. This is why the pollination drops. This is why the bees die. They either find the flower and can't find their way back home, or they can't even find the flowers and they starve. And this is the problem, is that our technology, the way that we are now becoming increasingly dependent on connecting with each other, that is destroying and interrupting the natural wave. So what do we do? What do we do? We have come so far, and unfortunately we've come to be so dependent on everything we do going through these little handheld devices, and we are becoming dependent on that and not trusting our own ability. And if we can rebuild our own ability, we will no longer need so much dependence on these little devices. And anyone who's been to a festival, you will know just how happy and joyous the vibration is, the frequency is. And we see how systems can all work. It can be chaotic, but it seems to work. We all seem to find enough food. We seem to find enough water. We seem to find our beds at night. We wake up when the sun comes up. Not everybody goes to bed when the sun goes down. But we find with a whole bunch of strangers, and even in the grand scale of festivals like Glastonbury, where you've got over 100,000 people, 250,000 people even, that it can work. You've got people cleaning up, you've got people cleaning the toilets, you've got people picking up the rubbish, you've got people partying, you've got people feeding each other, taking care of each other, you've got the sort of the healing fields where people are healing each other. And it works. It works without the phones, because the phones just don't work when you have that many people all emitting their own frequency. And how many people have gone to a festival and wished that that festival vibe could continue into the real world? We wish that that joy could actually carry on. Wouldn't that be amazing? And we just assume it can't. We assume that we can only have this kind of collaboration and cooperation when we're all together in a field at a festival. It's a break from normality. And yet these festivals are so key to our joy and our creativity. They are the time that we can really start to express ourselves and play, really play. And it's through play that creative ideas come. And all this technology that we have now has come from somebody playing, from somebody having dreams. So it's good. It is part of humanity. We have created this thing, this artificial intelligence. But we also have to remember we have the power to control it. We have the power to think, how far does it go? How much of it do we use? When do we use it? And when do we have the ability to be away from it? So as there's this increasing dependence and there's this increasing fear that it's running out of control, just remember that we have absolute control because it's funded by us. So just like if you don't want your bees to be poisoned by pesticides, if you stop buying chemically grown food, then that will just put an end to that whole system. It's the same with everything that you don't want in your world. Stop funding it. Be really conscious about where you're putting your money. Are you putting your money into fun and joy and creativity, or are you putting your money into something that will cramp your creativity? So just to close this, anybody just coming in at the end, what I'm sharing is that the bees and AI are both reflections of humanity. The bees have connection to soul and source, to the heavens and humanity. AI is merely a reflection of what humans can think of. And whether it's a good dream that you dream into reality or a bad dream you dream into reality, the AI will just reflect it back at you. And it doesn't have that divine connection to source that is the joy and is the fun that we all get. So just be mindful and have a think this coming week when you are not using your own creativity, not using your own superpowers, and for a quick fix, you're letting a computer reflect back what somebody else has already put into it. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you are enjoying this summer, and maybe you've had some chances to explore festivals and the joy and the fun and the challenges that come with living in a field for a few days. And if you want to know more about my community, then just go along to school, SKOOL, and /spiritual beekeeping. And there we can continue these conversations and you can explore more about your own creativity and what we can learn from the bees. So thanks very much for listening. And until next time, let's keep on creating a buzz about health. Bye for now.